Jobs are about to disappear. Most jobs, and certainly most knowledge jobs. If your job is being a brain connected to the internet, we are making better, faster, cheaper, more reliable brains that can carry out the same tasks that you can. I haven't had to hire a software engineer for my startups for the last couple of years because I just have LLMs writing the code for me.
Welcome to Storypreneurs. Today's guest is Dr. Daniel Duma, AI researcher, serial entrepreneur, and public speaker. With PhD from the University of Edinburgh and experience at Google and Alexa, Daniel is a pioneer in AI and longevity research. He envisions a future where we'll be forever young, but forever unemployed. So let's dive in. Dr. Daniel, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me. Pleasure to be here.
Absolutely. Listen, I really enjoyed your speech in Chiang Mai. I loved your presentation. I've got so many questions, so I had to invite you here. But before we get started into all of that, let's start off with your journey. So obviously you had an impressive journey from academia to tech, working for tech giants like Google and Alexa. How did you first get started in the field of AI? What drew you to that line of work?
So I did an undergrad in linguistics, and that's because I really loved that subject. I loved literature and also communication, everything to do with the written word. And while I was doing my degree, I was actually working as a programmer. I was doing my degree part-time because I was poor, still am, and I needed to, finance it somehow. And I was working for a bunch of corporates, even for the army in Spain. So I had some development experience. And towards the end of my degree, I was looking for a way to bring together my passion for humans and communication and things like that, and linguistics and literature, together with my love of computers and coding and getting computers to do cool things. And I discovered this thing called natural language processing, which is kind of the intersection of these two sort of broad areas. At the time, this was a backwater. This 11. Nobody had heard of NLP, or if they had heard of it, they didn't care. Anyway, I went and did a master's in this, and I loved it. Discovered this was what I wanted to do later on, and I ended up doing PhD, postdoc, ended up at all these companies, you said, and now many startups. So that's how I got into it.
What about the AI path? What took you on the AI path
Well, AI
specifically?
and NLP, right. So there's a transition there that we need to make clear. NLP, natural language processing, is AI. It's just older AI. It's the kind of thing you had to do in 2011, 2012, and 13 to actually process text or voice or anything to do with communication and language. It was a collection of brittle hacks. That was the best. That's the best definition I could come up with, and it still worked sort of. So Alexa is still using exactly that. It's still not great, and they fired their whole department and said, okay, eventually we'll just do LLMs, right? So there's a transition there going to happen for both Google Assistant, Alexa, Siri. All of those eventually will become LLM based because it's just a better technology. But I was working on the old style of technology that empowered these experiences, right? So you still had voice recognition, you still had voice synthesis, you still had understanding, quote unquote, understanding of what the user was asking for, what task you should carry out, but it was based on old style of things. So my transition from NLP to AI is simply a name change. Like now we call it AI, but it's exactly the same thing. It's just now
Oh.
different methodologies, different models, different ways of doing it, but it's exactly the same tasks.
And we started off with these chatbots, and now we've got these agents that can basically do anything from programming your, journey through to doing some mundane tasks, and it's amazing. Where do you see AI going? You've made some pretty bold claims, so I want to understand more about that.
Sure. I guess the main message that I'm trying to communicate during these talks that I'm giving, the one that you saw in Chiang Mai, is that jobs are about to disappear. most jobs, and certainly most knowledge jobs. If your job is being a brain connected to the internet, we are making better, faster, cheaper, more reliable brains that can carry out the same tasks that you can. And that's why I have all these, like demos of robots and things to bring the point home, right? Now, it used to be a future prediction that I would make that in the future we would have these capabilities, blah, blah, blah. That future came within like a year of me starting to talk about this, right? So now it's already the present, it's not the future. You can already automate so many tasks. I haven't had to hire a software engineer for my startups for the last couple of years because I just have LLMs writing the code for me. Like I wouldn't say 10x, that would be an exaggeration, but 3x or 4x, right? I can get the job of like 3 or 4 people working perfectly in synchrony, right? Of like very high capability. I can get that work done instantly by myself, right? I don't need a team anymore. I have an LLM team, right? It's not quite agentic yet. You mentioned agents earlier. I think those capabilities are going to come as well. So essentially, what this means is all these jobs where you sit in front of a computer and you type or you talk or you're on Zoom calls, all of these jobs that we have created for, I'd say, a majority of people, majority of jobs in the Western world are not the hit things with a hammer job. They're not like big trenches with a spade job, the carry sacks of rice job. Those tend to be the majority in the world actually, but we're not doing those things. We're sitting at a computer and pretending to be very fancy and having a lot of coffee, right? This is what we do. And those jobs are going away. Not all of them, not immediately, but many of them very fast. And so that's part of my message is that this is happening. And the other part of the message is this is an opportunity. Yes, everybody's scared immediately by this prospect, but I think the opportunity lies in harnessing these virtual employees that everybody can have. So everyone can turn into an entrepreneur, into a business owner, into somebody who tells others what to do rather than be told what to do, right? And that's where I see humans. I see all of us at the head of an army of robots, right, doing our bidding and us benefiting from it.
Let's talk about entrepreneurship and AI. A lot of my listeners and viewers are young, aspiring entrepreneurs who, are looking at building their businesses, digital nomads as well, who've got something on the side, who are looking to create something. So you talked about AI being this opportunity. What are some examples that people can leverage, right now using AI that they could scale their business, they can build your business? You obviously are a serial entrepreneur. You just said you're using AI. Is there any practical examples that you can give people that they can, automate? They can.
Sure. So I just mentioned coding is one, like building apps that used to take weeks and several people and thousands of, pounds, dollars, euros. Now it's something that can be done in hours by one person for pretty much free, right? Or for such a low cost that you don't even mention it. What does that mean? Well, on the one hand, more software is being created, which is good. On the other hand, you can launch products very quickly. You can become like a one-person agency, right? And you can also become it's easier than ever to become a solopreneur, an indiepreneur, somebody who launches stuff, products. And they can be apps, yes, software is obviously like a main category there, but it could be just content. You could be creating faceless YouTube clips. There's a huge opportunity there. Lots of people are already taking advantage of that. You can literally generate engaging clips with AI voiceover with like a really deep, engaging voice with like emotion and stuff. And then you have these mid-journey generated images of like, let's say a channel on the Roman Empire. You pick a bunch of like stories that actually happened from the internet, right? You find it in the Wikipedia, things that actually happened and have like, they're backed up with references. You run them through Claude, ChatGPT, whatever, and say, okay, make this like an engaging story with like, like a gripping thing with like, okay, cool. And now read it out loud and then create an image to illustrate each of these, add a few like simple effects with like roto thingy or like zooms in and out. There are people doing this and making thousands a month on these like faceless channels with just ads. These are just like random examples, but just to open up the imagination of all the things that are possible now that weren't like 2 years ago.
It is possible. It is true because creating digital content has been much easier to build now than ever. And in fact, there's been a shift in the US, and these kind of blue collar jobs are now, like plumbers and electricians, and they're getting a lot of money because everyone's just on the internet these days. No one knows how to fix a sink, or how to, fix your toilets, or, how to put a fuse anymore, because everyone's just so focused on that. So then there's like this shift of labor force going to, much more of the manual jobs. What about those people who can't be entrepreneurs, who don't have it in them, who still want to have this comfortable life, of doing something 9 to 5 or 9 to 6? What about those people?
I think more and more people will be able to become entrepreneurs if they weren't before, because now we'll have AI assistants for that as well. As you know, I am building one, Ned, the AI co-founder. You can link it in the description afterwards if you want. But I think that's the direction that things are going to go. I agree, not everyone, not 100% of people will be willing or able to do the entrepreneurial thing, even with AI assistants, even with examples, even with a community helping them. True, not 100% of people will, um, how shall I say, benefit from this transition. Not immediately, not in the short term. I don't disagree with that. But we could say the same about the recent transition from the blue collar 9 to 5 single earner that sustains a family with 2 children, with a house, with a garage and 2 cars, right? That used to be true 2 generations ago. Now this is like a dream, like that doesn't exist anywhere. Like, of course, everybody has to work 14,000 hours a day, and you can barely afford heating in winter, right? This is the reality that we're in right now because of many reasons. But that old view of what a job was like, this like comfy, like security thing, like, okay, you join some organization or the government, right? Like you work as a public servant, and you just have like everything is guaranteed for life. Your one salary covers really good lifestyle. You can afford property, like your life is good. There was a period of time when that was true. It was the post-war period, right, when there were not enough people, so salaries had to be really high. When the differential in technology of like Western companies was so big that they could afford to actually redistribute all of that to their workers and stuff. Anyway, we can talk about that for much longer, but in summary, I think that transition's already happened in a way, and there's a bunch of people who have already not benefited from it. There's a bunch of people who cannot find a good job, who like still live with their parents, and that's true across a lot of the Western world, right? We see these things. So I don't think it's going to be much different. There will still be a bunch of people who will not benefit from it. I'm sorry, that's just the reality. But I think there is an opportunity for even more than like there's an opportunity to benefit more people. I think there's a positive to that. I think we can shift to those who don't have like a good option right now into entrepreneurship, and not all of them will.
Let's talk about tangibles actually. Say that I've got an idea and I want to take advantage of this AI wave right now. I've seen a lot of people just plastering a lot of like AI this and AI that, and but let's be real for a moment. If you have to educate yourself and to really be on that wave of AI and truly take the advantages of using it, where's one place that one can start? What are some of the tools can people, maybe education platforms or any places where people can start and they can learn about more about AI and how they can take advantage of this?
Well, YouTube is a great place, as I'm sure everybody knows. But if you really don't know where to start, everything's very confusing. You have I don't know, a plethora of opportunity of asking so many different assistants, LLM-based chatbots, right? ChatGPT, Perplexity, Gemini, you name it. There's many out there that all have web search, and it's got really good right now. So what I personally do right now, my best way to answer any question that I have is I go to Perplexity, I turn on R1, which is the DeepSeek model, but they fine tune it themselves to remove the whole like Tiananmen restrictions in China and all that nonsense. And it does web search at every step. So it starts thinking to itself, okay, the user needs this. Okay, they seem to be confused about that. Let me Google this. You remember? Well, Google, search. Let me search for this. And then it gets a bunch of results. Oh, I see in this page that I should read the other page. Goes and reads the other page. So it does the research for you, and then you can say, okay, explain like I'm five. right? Where do I start? What do I do? And it will help you step by step. Go here, watch this video, read this article, make your first attempt, create your first company, go to Shopify, start a store. Here's a tutorial on how to do that. Oh, you want to do an app? I'm going to guide you on how to make an app. Oh, you want to start your own channel? I'm going to give you the content. I'm going to show you how to record. Here's the software. This is how you do it. Here's the tutorial on how to use it. You know, you can just start there asking this question that you have, turn on the web search, and it will answer it for you. So it's really commoditized. I think just people don't know that this is so good right now.
Talking about people in AI, there's a lot of people who are skeptical about AI and they've got some privacy and security concerns. What can you tell them about that?
Privacy and security concerns. I mean, if you put your data on the internet, then your data is on the internet. I don't know how people cannot understand this. You put your data up there, it's there, and then others will find it and be able to access it. You know, that's the summary of it. Also, like, I don't think it's any more problematic than what we already had before. In fact, things have got a bit better. I think after the Cambridge Analytica scandal, whatever that was, 2016, 17, a lot of companies where you put your data on the internet have reinforced their systems to make it harder to scrape, to obtain, to connect, and blah blah. That doesn't mean that people can't do it. They do it, right? There's a million companies out there whose only job is precisely to collect this data from the internet and put it together so that you can find whoever you're looking for, so that you can email, like, spam them and stuff, right? I mean, that's just there. And, you know, there's offense and defense. People will try to use your data for nefarious purposes, and you will try to defend yourself from it. It's the internet.
Life.
It's like,
So you talked about AI being in the commercial space. What about the public space? I was watching this interesting talk about AI going into, like, developing so much that goes into national banks, government, military, and so on and so forth. And the reason why I'm asking you this question is the guy who was, again, I don't remember his name, he was a very old guy, and he was saying, like, AI is gonna, and he's a professor and he studied AI as well. He was like, AI is gonna take control because one day AI is gonna realize that they're explaining things to a 3-year-old, and they would need more control from you, and then you'd give them that control, and it's going to seep through all crevices of society, and then they're going to realize they could do the job without you prompting them and being more autonomous, and they would need that from you, because it's like, a 3-year-old telling an adult, the AI being the adult, what to do, and the adult thinking, like, well, I can do it much better without you telling me what to do, and I can actually trick you with a bit of candy to to get you to give me permissions and access things, because I don't need you telling what to do because you're a 3-year-old. Do you see that happening?
interesting. So what I definitely see happening already is this. I saw this name on the internet as a website about it. It's called gradual disempowerment. And this is something that whenever people worry about, will AI try to take control from humans? Does it have its own goals? Will it treat us as 3-year-olds and take away power from us, etc., etc.? Every time, like, they would put some, like, probability of doom. I don't know if you've seen this, P doom, probability of doom, everybody estimates it at like 5%, 10%, 15% probability that AI will kind of like wipe out mankind or take control entirely or something like that. And I tell them that while that may be so, and I think it isn't, I actually think it's a ridiculous thing to be scared of. But while that, even if that was true, I think the probability of gradual disempowerment of AI slowly taking control that we are happily giving it is 1. It's happening already. It's happened. It's already happened. How do I know this? I'm at an awards ceremony and I am asked to hand an award to a person. And I'm like, how do you do that? I have no idea. I've never done it. What do? I go to Jippy and I say, hey Jippy, I'm here. I'm doing this. This is the person. This is the award. Give me something funny to say. Give me, like, how does this work? What? Okay. Here's your script. Excellent. The other person who receives the award, oh shit, I had to receive an award. How does this work? Hey Jippy, tell me how to, right? So we both have our scripts written by AI and we perform them live in the real world. And we're both very happy that we don't have to think about this thing that we don't know what to do about. AI tells us what to do. And that is already true across the board. We are writing emails with GP that other people are reading with GP that summarizes it for them. Like the layer of communication is already mediated by AI. Now, I don't worry in the sense that, all these systems are somehow either conscious or have their own goals that are against mankind. All of these things I don't worry about at all. But it is true that we are giving away more and more of our agency to AI agents. And I don't even think that's wrong. I think it's fine, but it will lead to a world where humans are less and less in control. I agree with that.
Scary.
So welcome to 2025. It's already true.
Let's talk about some of your other predictions. It was about fully reverse aging within the next 15 years. That sounds very interesting. Can you tell me more about the advancements in longevity research?
How many hours do we have?
You're welcome to use GP to summarize your points to 5 minutes.
Fantastic, thank you. Okay, where do we start? There has been an ongoing effort in a community of passionate researchers to find the causes and find the solutions to aging. Right, so aging is the number one killer in the history of mankind. Right? Yes, you die of infections. Yes, you die of cancer. Yes, you die of all kinds of things. But most causes of death are natural death, and natural death is caused by aging. Right? The fact that your heart stops, or your arteries are clogged, or you get a neoplasm growing that takes over your lungs and your kidneys and blah blah blah. All of those things are aging. Aging is progressive damage that accumulates over time and leads to pathology at some point. There's some sort of cliff or some peak, whatever you want to represent it as. Like at some point, it passes a critical threshold, and you end up with pathology, which ends up in death eventually. Right? Now, my main concern is health rather than life, but the good news is they go together. So if you increase the health span of someone, like if you keep them younger for longer, then it's like less like they will die, right? It simply it postpones death, right? So this is the way I like to look at it. It's a an ongoing fight against death. This is what modern medicine has been about for the last 150 years. Like 150, 200 years ago, most people died before the age of 10. The majority of deaths were in very early age, right? So your chance of death started super high. Newborns like died like 3 out of 5 or 2 out of 5, something crazy like that, right? And then it was still very likely until the age of 10 or something. And it was mostly diseases like bacteria, viruses, things that we now have vaccines for and have, of course, here that we also have um, sanitation. We don't shit where we drink. We have, a lot of things that we brought into society have solved that. Like almost nobody dies. I mean, when it happens, it's a huge tragedy. It used to be commonplace. Most people would have like 5 to 7 children, and 2 to 5 of them would not see, adulthood. That was just normal. Well, anyway, so we fixed that, and now what's happening is we live longer, which is great. But as we live longer, we get more and more old people, which is skewing society. Like the demographics of it is skewing it towards an older population, which brings a bunch of problems. So anyway, talking without like a very clear thread here because it's a lot to talk about. But I do believe that the effort that is happening right now in research, specifically multiplied by the intelligence that we're creating, the AI that we're bringing in, I think I'm very optimistic that we will figure out interventions that will progressively reverse aging. So it won't be a one pill that will somehow suddenly make you immortal. That will never exist. It's not like that. But we can reverse the damage and rejuvenate you, slowly rejuvenate you. And if you keep rejuvenating and rejuvenating, we keep coming up with therapies, we keep, research continues. Over your lifetime, you'll just keep having interventions that will just keep rewinding, like winding back the clock a bit. I think this is very likely to happen. And I said 15 years. I think somewhere between 10 and 15 is probably correct.
So how is exactly AI helping in that?
So it's again, how many hours do we have? So Okay, understanding aging means understanding metabolism. We currently don't. It's an extremely complex machine that we cannot observe. Like, there's no way to actually see everything happening in real time. Like, we don't have methods for that because these things are like a few atoms, like it's like 50 atoms put together. How do you follow those 50 atoms through a cell when they move at 400 kilometers per hour and they're constantly bouncing into each other? Like, it's impossible to visualize, to observe, like as it's happening. So you have all these surrogate measures, you have all these ways to infer what actually happened, kind of guess where these proteins are going and what they're doing, how they're interacting with each other. So some stuff can be visualized, other stuff cannot, and you try to fill the gaps. So AI is amazing at precisely filling in the gaps, at figuring out the bigger picture, figuring out the bigger structure that you're trying to understand, and saying, well, okay, you have this data point and this data point and this data point. I think what's missing in here is the connection between these five things over here. Right? Aha! So examples. There was this recent model, Evo 2, it just came out, I don't know, like a week ago, that discovered by itself something that we already knew, but it discovered by itself a target, a mutation, a place in the genome where if the mutation happens, it will lead to a pathology. It figured it out by itself without us telling it, and in a one shot of the first human genome it ever saw, because it was trained on like animals and other species. So you give it like one human genome, it goes like, oh, wait a second, there's a mutation here that tells me that this thing will happen downstream, right? So it already starts to understand things more than any human ever could, because it's a lot of data, it's a lot of putting together models of how things interact in this very complicated space that is full of uncertainty, that is impossible to visualize fully. So AI will just bring the intelligence that we need. We still need to improve our methods to see deeper and deeper into the small structures inside the cell and understand what's actually going on. But it's promising, so I'm very excited.
It's yeah, it sounds very promising and it sounds very interesting actually. I also read an article about how nanobots infused with AI can detect
Right.
bad cancer cells and can eliminate that. That also sounds very interesting.
Those nanobots are called cells. We already have them in us. And one example of this, I would class this as longevity research, but they just call it medicine, right? So have you heard of CAR T cells? Chimeric antigen receptor T cells. So T cells do a bunch of like jobs in the immune system, but one of them is their like judge dread. They find something that they think is a pathogen or cancer, and they just kill it on the spot, right? But there's a bunch of mechanisms by which cancers can actually disguise themselves and fool these cells into not killing them, right? They include like viscous layers in between, showing some proteins on the surface of the cell that say, no, no, I'm a totally normal cell. I'm not a cancer cell. Don't kill me. Like there's a bunch of ways that cancer can mutate to evade the immune system. So we have created these cells in the lab. I don't know how old this technology is, like maybe 20 years old or something, where essentially you take out your own immune cells. These are the judge dread cells, which are being fooled currently by the cancer. And what you do is you modify them genetically. You give them a bunch of new genes that make them express a receptor on their surface that is not fooled that easily. They also become very trigger happy, so they end up killing a bunch of other cells that are actually innocent. But but it works. You get that thing in you, and it's the most targeted cancer therapy we have right now. It still kills a bunch of stuff that it shouldn't, but mostly it goes to the tumor. It goes like, you're dead.
That
So
sounds very effective actually. It sounds
it,
like more effective than the liquid and the radiotherapy that we've got right now because it
that's
literally just
exactly
kills everything.
that's exactly right. It still has a percentage of you died of CAR T therapy, right? I mean, it's not 100% safe. But if you were going to die anyway of cancer, then it's way better than chemo and radio,
Worth taking the risk.
for sure.
Hmm. So looking ahead, talking about the future of AI reshaping the world. I know you're also working. You've got your own project called Net. Can you tell me about a little bit more about that?
Absolutely. So I'm, as you know, a serial entrepreneur for 12 years now. My biggest problem has always been to find the right co-founder to build the next thing with, because as I say in the talk, right, you need to find somebody who is aligned on mission, on vision, passion, who is at the right point in their lives, who can like ditch everything to focus 110% into their
The list goes on and on and on,
yeah,
right?
yeah, yeah. And you need somebody who like, has a complementary ego. Like all of these things have to align, and finding that person that is at the center of this Venn diagram that I call the most complicated Venn diagram in history, right, is always very hard. And I've been through this process many times, and sometimes you succeed and sometimes you don't. And when you do, it's like you've won the lottery. You found that one person who really is the right person. And after suffering this for so long, I decided that enough wasting time finding the person. I was going to make the person. And so I am making Ned, the AI co founder, who's essentially all this AI that we talked about, agentic AI that does things for you, that texts you and like keeps you accountable, on track, focused, productive, and also is really fun to interact with. So I'm building this and it's working, and I have a bunch of people using it right now. It's very early beta, but it's very promising. People love it. They ask me for more features. I'm trying to build in all these things, like it manages your calendar, it reads your documents on Google Drive, and so it has all the context when you're talking about things. So I think there's a lot of potential for this. Oh,
I
and I'm
mean,
gonna start raising money very soon. So
I'll make sure I put the link for that below just so that people can, check it out. I know you've got is it a wait list or is it like a
yes,
early sign up?
that's right. I'm onboarding people slowly, but I'm currently one developer plus LLMs, of course. So as we raise money and hire, I guess that will grow faster. I think over the next few weeks, I should be onboarding quite a few.
Great. Perfect. Do you see the future ending there? Like, I mean, you've already started building
The
you
end.
right, exactly. You've started building that, and I've started seeing crazily that people are, finding AI girlfriends or boyfriends and marrying. Is that the future? Is that where things are going now?
Might be part of it. I, for one, am very excited to see robots come into our life as well, like physical, artificial creatures that will become our butlers, our friends, our assistants, maybe our lovers. I mean, actually, that field seems to be quite ahead. I don't know if you've heard of real dolls, but there's, that's a market that exists already. If you make them, a
In
bit more.
Japan, right? They've got robots that cost so much, and they're like humanoids, and
I mean, Japan used to be at the forefront of these things, so like that was like the future already existed in Japan like 30
mm,
years ago, right? But they've just been stuck in the same place for the 30 years that we're talking about. And now we're actually like catching up with that and making it real, like actually delivering on the vision. You see, you have all the humanoids that actually work and can do useful work for you, like moving things around and filling boxes and whatever needs to be done, like as a worker. And that means hopefully soon we'll be cleaning your house, making sure everything's in its place, and yeah, maybe they're also attractive. Let's see.
any positive message you could give out there? Obviously, AI
Is
is
this a
going to
positive
take.
message? I think it's great. It's super positive.
Well, I'm just thinking about those people who, are thinking, at some point in the next 20 years, people are gonna use robots more commercially available to do house chores, to do mundane tasks, and you've got AI getting rid of all the knowledge workers. So, is there what advice could you give, or what message could you give that to those people that are thinking right now, oh my God, like I'm a cleaner, I might lose my job, or or this my co-founder could take over one day, because he's AI,
I think the taking over is something that we can regulate. Just do we want that to happen or not? I think if society doesn't go completely mad and commit some kind of suicide collectively, I think we can just make sure that the humans benefit and machines are machines and are there to serve humans essentially. And on the other one that you said, like, what if I'm a cleaner and my job goes away? Well, how about you are the head of a cleaning agency and the robots work for you? And maybe you don't even have to do anything. You're just a human that on paper owns it, and you put your name to it. And every so often you go around and shake a few hands and do some deals and or turn up to investigate and make sure they're doing their job right or something. And the rest is just done by machines. I don't see any problem with that. You can still get the reward of doing something useful for society. You still have a position in society which I think I would dare to say is higher than you doing the cleaning. Um, and, an income and all of these things. So I see that as very positive.
Perfect. Thank you so much. This is all the time that we got. I know we can talk about this for ages, but I just wanted our listeners or viewers just to get a snapshot of your brilliance. So I do appreciate you coming on this podcast. I do appreciate you,
Appreciate it.
your time and all your knowledge and all your insights. I'll make sure I put your links in the comments and in the description so people can reach out to you. Any closing remarks before we go?
I think the future is bright, and we have everything in our power and in our hands to make it so. And it's really just the collective decision of society to make this future a bright future as opposed to a dark dystopian one. And I don't think people should be afraid. I think they should be excited and embrace it now rather than try to ignore it and look a different way.
Perfect. Thank you so much for your time, Dr. Duma. Appreciate it.
I appreciate the invite.